Welcome into Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. I am your host, Josh Buckhalter. Be sure to follow me on X at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. The website is clockersports.com, and the email address is contact@clockersports.com. Be sure to follow the site at Clocker Sports on Facebook and on Instagram and on X, and also follow the show on X and on Facebook at 30spod. That is the number 30spod. Also follow the site on TikTok at Clocker Sports on TikTok, where we get up all our videos waiting to get back into the season. NFL season 2024 campaign, so we can bring some more high-quality videos and entertainment, hopefully better quality videos, if you know what I mean. But first and foremost, be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review, share all those great things, the podcast, so we can continue to grow. Just a quick episode today. Wanted to touch on some of the things that I've been writing about around the NFL and the NBA before the Championship Sunday matchups in the NFL on Sunday. That's why it's Championship Sunday. We'll have some picks there, and we'll talk about some of the news going on around in the NBA and the NFL. Again, we are in the NFL offseason, so the sound bites have kind of slowed down. I will begin writing the summer stories that I have from the Bears, the religion story. I got a story on Roy and Bateka, something about, I think I'm either going to do something with that, with Dylan Cole separately, or I'm going to include him in a larger piece about just the different stages, I guess, guys are in their career. I haven't really sorted that part out yet, though, but I do have the religion one and the Empatech one coming, so those would be two interesting pieces, especially with the news that the NFL or CBS, I forget which broadcaster, honestly, so I don't want to say CBS. A broadcaster appeared to have cut out C.J. Stroud's answer post-game about thanking God first before he went on to explain the game or whatever. And so I think it's a very timely, very poignant piece. I'll probably leave with that one starting sometime this week. And so be on the lookout for that at clockersports.com. Like I said, run up the YouTube, man. Run up the TikTok channel so that we can get those things growing, and the YouTube especially, so we can get monetized there next season. If not to start next season, at early on in the season, that would be a great that's a great goal. That's the goal that I've set, and so that would be great to achieve that by, like I said, week 1 of next season. So that being said, let's get into some of the stories that I've been covering in the last couple of days, and what I'm looking for in the weekend coming up, and things of that nature, starting with the NFL. So the Bears have filled both of their coordinator spots, hiring Shane Waldron from the Seattle Seahawks to be their offensive coordinator, and bringing along with him Kerry Joseph to be their quarterbacks coach. The Bears held on to a few position coaches on both sides of the ball, so that's made the job for both Waldron and his counterpart on defense, Eric Washington, a little bit simpler. From the outside, that could seem like maybe a bit of a roadblock. Staffs or coaches want to bring in their own staffs when they do get hired. I do think it's interesting, though, that the hires are both guys who are experienced and uniquely experienced, I think, for a situation like this. And what I mean by that is with Waldron, you got a lot of people saying, "Oh, this definitely means it definitely means it's going to be Caleb Williams." I don't think it leans either way. And I think I might have said that last episode. I don't think it leans either way. I do think that it shows that they are looking for somebody who can work with a mobile style quarterback and maybe build up some of those things that have held that quarterback back. You could say that Geno is not the mobile guy that either of Williams or Fields is, which is definitely true. But I think he's a guy who's mobile enough, right? And he's a guy who definitely had to have some things worked out to get him to his max level. Kerry Joseph, a guy who was accomplished in the CFL as a quarterback, playing a style that I think it mirrors both Fields and Williams, but I think it's probably closer to Williams when I'm looking at it. When I watch the highlights, I didn't watch the entire CFL games of this and that nature, but I saw a clip of him from former Bears running back Jared Payton. You might have heard that name a few times. And so I'm encouraged by those steps. I'm still kind of, I guess, lukewarm would be the best way to say it, because I'm just not sure what to expect from them. The Seahawks offense looked all right in 2022. Geno Smith made a Pro Bowl, which is always good for him. The Pro Bowl is not necessarily the measure of accomplishment that it once was. So I'm not necessarily putting all the stock in that some might when they are promoting that hire. But then also the offense kind of came back to earth this past season, and even when they were at their peak, they weren't necessarily world beaters, or it didn't feel that way. So I am interested to see how this shakes out. We've heard that there were some stylistic differences between Waldron and head coach Pete Carroll in Seattle, and that led to Waldron maybe kind of calling a style offense that didn't necessarily suit what he wanted to do. So I'm interested to see how that actually plays out once training camp opens up and once the season comes at us. On the defensive side, Eric Washington is a great hire in that, he has a history of working under head coaches who are either calling their plays or are very much going to be involved in the game planning and play calling of the week. He's worked under Ron Rivera, former Bears defensive coordinator. He's worked under Sean McDermott. He's worked under Lovie Smith. And so when you think of those three, those are definitely three prominent figures in in defensive side of the ball, but also in this style of defense that the Bears want to run. And so when he comes with his assistant head coach experience as well, I think that that kind of lends itself to what Matt Eberflus wants to be in terms of being a play caller, but also being a guy who wants to kind of be able to oversee everything. He can kind of do both now with a guy like Washington there to kind of supplement, fill in the blanks, if you will. So I wrote about both of those hires for Clocker Sports and gave you some insight into what their numbers were when they were calling plays, where they've been, and maybe who could impact. And I think I'm just going to put it out there for Washington, obviously for Washington, it's for Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, whoever they decide to go with. But for Washington, I'm interested to see how he impacts the development of a Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens. Now, I'm not sure if he's been primarily an edge guy. I saw Corey Wooten say that he helped him in his career when Washington was with the Bears in his initial stint in 2008, 2010, somewhere thereabouts. And so I'm not entirely certain. I admit that whether or not he's an outside or inside guy. But if he's getting it inside as well, then I would definitely am looking forward to seeing how he can help Dexter and Pickens develop. Now, we've also, like I said, they've retained a bunch of line coaches. Chris Morgan on the offensive side, Jim Dre tight ends. On the defensive side, you've kept almost every position coach, right? You have Dave Vorganzi's coming back. You've got John Hoke coming back. Andre Curtis is coming back. You also have the line coaches coming back as well. And so I'm not sure, where Washington's going to fit in. That's why I say his role, his experiences as an assistant head coach is going to be extremely valuable in this setting because he's used to having, I guess, multiple hats, as it were, working. Now, like I said, it's been primarily defensive line work in his past, but he's got experience working with other groups. And so that, I think, is going to be critical for a team that's trying to build off their momentum of last season rather than kind of start over like we saw them do, I think, this past year. And so I'm looking forward to both of those things. Elsewhere around the league, because, it's not just the Bears. It's everywhere that we try to talk about here on Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. You have a hiring cycle that's seen Brian Callahan go from the Bengals to the Tennessee Titans. Real quick, I've heard Liam Cohen be associated with that offensive coordinator job. Cohen was a candidate for the Bears position as offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach at Kentucky, I believe it was. And so he's at Kentucky. I believe the role was quarterbacks coach. But that's a great fit for him if he can actually land there with Callahan in Tennessee. It's a great fit for him, but really it's a great fit for Will Levis or whoever they decide to go with. And if it is Levis, then kudos to him because that's Callahan and it's a great play caller. And you get his father, if his father comes out, to help with the offensive line or consults or whatever that may be, and then you get Cohen to work with quarterbacks. I think that would be a great situation for a Will Levis. Elsewhere, you still have the Seahawks and the Commanders looking for head coaches. We've seen the Atlanta Falcons turn to Raheem Morris, turn back, I guess it was, to Raheem Morris. He was there as a assistant earlier on in his career and then went on to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 or 4 years. That did not go well. He was young at the time, though. Has since gone on and built his resume and leaves the Los Angeles Rams to take over the head coaching job in Atlanta. So hats off to him. Elsewhere, you, like I said, still have those openings. You had in Washington and in where's the other opening? It's blanking on me right now. I completely Seattle. There we go. And so with those, you have the names like Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel still floating around, but though neither one has been attached to either one of those positions. Belichick was attached to the Commanders job, but that has since been, I guess, kind of placeholder for Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, whenever their playoff run is over. Jim Harbaugh returns to the NFL, going to the Los Angeles Chargers. And I heard that it was Dan Patrick, I believe it was, put Justin Herbert on the clock. I guess there's a lot of quarterback hungry teams that would hope so. I don't know if I see that, but if that's the case, then so be it. And like I said, there'll be a lot of teams that will jump at the chance to try to acquire a Justin Herbert, take him off the Chargers' hands if he is deemed a poor fit with Jim Harbaugh, who comes back to the league. You have to think with a lot of control in that front office. I believe if he's not hand-picking, he's helping in the process of picking the general manager and over there. So, be on the lookout for that team next year because I've long said that I like Herbert as a talent. They were lacking a lot in play calling and lacking a lot at the top, basically. I wasn't a big Brandon Staley fan, and I think there weren't a lot of fans in that locker room either. So we'll see how that all plays out. Hats off to Antonio Pierce for holding on to the job in Las Vegas there with the Raiders. We saw Max Crosby, quote unquote, threaten to consider demanding a trade if Pierce was not the guy. He gets the guy after taking over last season amid a surge of support in the locker room, mind you. So that was I think the easy answer, but the smart answer as well, because it wasn't guaranteed that they were gonna go ahead and do that. So that's always good to see. And then you had the Carolina Panthers going with Dave Canales of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Canales is an interesting name because I had not found out about this until he got brought in for the Panthers rather. Leaves the Bucs offensive coordinator spot. He was also in Seattle with Geno that first season, if I'm not mistaken, and was one of the people that they've credited with helping Geno come along. So I guess we'll get to see. And now, like I said, he was gone this past season, and Geno kind of regressed. The offense as a whole kind of regressed. So I'm very, very interested to see how that dynamic kind of plays out with the Bears. For the Panthers, though, and for Bryce Young, if that is the case, then if that's any indication of what kind of impact Canales can have, we saw Baker Mayfield have a career year this past season with the Buccaneers. That only bodes well for Bryce Young, who looked, I don't want to say overmatched and overwhelmed, but it looked like there was just too much happening for him to kind of think to get settled into his role as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, he found his way a little bit as the season wore on, but you just saw too many types of situations where he was not being supported properly. We see that a lot of places around the NFL with quarterbacks, young quarterbacks especially, and so you have to be optimistic. This is the time of the year for optimism. There's not going to be very many people who are downtrodden about the decisions that are being made. So I guess you could say take any praise that you hear from coordinator hirings, coach hirings with a grain of salt, just because this is, again, the season for optimism. Hope springs eternal, as they say, in the off season. And so a lot of good stuff. We're hearing about a lot of free agency. We had Kirk Cousins linked to the Patriots, to the Falcons. We've had the Vikings linked as a team to Justin Fields, which I just do not see. People are weighing in on what the Bears are going to do at number one overall. We're getting close to the draft time, but before we can do all that, we have to get through to the Super Bowl, I guess you could say, but we have to get through the championship Sunday before we do any of that. And so before we'll get to the NBA stuff, let's talk about what I forecast and predict together is foredict. That's what you get. Anyway, that might be NSFW. I might need to go ahead and put this explicit. I don't know. That was a slip. Anyway, what I'm forecasting, what I'm predicting for Championship Sunday, the two matches between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then the 49ers and the Detroit Lions. So we'll start off with the Chiefs and the Ravens. This is similar to what I felt with the Buffalo Bills and with the Chiefs on paper. I have a hard time picking against the Ravens with their roster, what they've accomplished. My boy Lamar. I've been a Lamar. If you follow this podcast from day one, you know that I am a Lamar stan. I've been a big fan of his since he came into the league, just because I like what his game is and how he approaches everything that he does. So that being said, you still got to beat the man to be the man. And as much as I want to praise Lamar for his ability to adapt himself, to grow, develop as a passer, the hats off to the Ravens for getting talent around him, proper talent around him, especially at the wide receiver position, something that they have been lacking in recent years. That being said, it's still Patty Mack and the rest of the world, right? We saw them go against a Buffalo team that looked like they might have had their number, just like I said, coming in on paper with the weapons that they had, and Mahomes, and you could say it's for a fortunate kick, or that's fine. You got to be in position to benefit from those type of things, and you can always feel like you have a chance to come out on top when you got 15 under center. And so I'm not rooting for the Ravens, because I'm very much a fan of seeing dynasties begin and being there and witnessing the start of a historic run. And we've seen that with Mahomes. We know that he's already on that path. So I'm not going to say I'm rooting for the Ravens, but I would like to see the Ravens get through. I like to see Lamar break through and get to that Super Bowl. But I can't pick against Mahomes. I just can't. I as much as I would want to, just like I went into last weekend, I just cannot pick against the guy who I've seen do it. It's a show me league. I heard that earlier today. It's a show me league, and I've seen them do it. So I will have an interest in seeing Lamar and the Ravens progress and advance to the next stage. But I am if I had to put money on it, it's going to the Chiefs. In the other game, you have the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. And these are very similar teams in that they are going to overwhelm you with what they can do offensively. However, on the other side of the ball is where the difference is going to come in. San Francisco's defense is legitimate. It's real. They hit you. They can fly around. You can get to them, but you can get to any defense in this NFL. So that's just the effect of life. They're still a very, very stout unit, especially against the pass. This game could come weigh heavily on who can dominate early, right? Who can get to into the top scoring position first, because then for the Lions, that allows them to unleash their pass rushers, what they're a little bit better at than they are stopping the run. They're not great rushing the passer either, but then you at least let Aiden Hutchinson go after the passer instead of having to try to stop running backs all damn day, which you don't want to have to do. I don't know that they can do it against a 49ers team that does that too, can beat you through the air, but also has the best running back in the game in Christian McCaffrey, as well as, like I said, a stout defense on the other side that can capitalize on your mistakes. That secondary can be had. I told you about that last week, and they were had a few times. But the Lions secondary is not great either. And I just have more faith in what the 49ers can do on defense. And even if you think that the offensive edge is to Detroit, I don't know how you can say that it's a strong edge, especially if Deebo Samuel is back and healthy as he appears to be going into the matchup. So while it was a little bit difficult for me to pick the Chiefs over the Ravens, this pretty much is easy for me to pick the San Francisco 49ers over the Lions. Of course, as always, I am very much willing to be wrong. I'm not a person who will bury his head in the sand and act like he just couldn't see it coming, didn't see it happen, won't ignore. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but my picks for this weekend are Chiefs and 49ers. That's your Super Bowl matchup. And so on that note, we will switch gears to the NBA. We are fast approaching the NBA trade season, and man, there is a lot of noise. First of all, we'll just touch on the Lakers. They are about to tip off against the Golden State Warriors in NBA's matchup week. They are linked to DeJounte Murray. They are linked to Bruce Brown, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal. But the fact of the matter is the cost to do business might be too rich for them, and they might be better off just sticking with what they have, working it out. And then, as I wrote about for heavy on Lakers rather, they might also be better off going for a buyout candidate like a Kyle Lowry, who was traded to the Hornets and looks like, according to General Manager Mitch Kupchak, he could be hitting, like I said, the buyout market in the 21st, around the 20th of February. That starts to pick up. I think that's when the Bulls signed Patrick Beverley last season. So look for that if they don't make a move here. The cost of doing business with the Hawks. The Hawks want not only they want the first round picks, but they want you to find another place to send D'Angelo Russell. Russell's been playing well, but not well enough to keep, apparently, according to Javon Boo of The Athletic. So it's just a complicated amalgam of things for the Lakers, as usual. That's par for the course. But they thumped the Bulls, who are still dealing without Zach LaVine. We saw Casey Johnson weigh in with some trade ideas for the Bulls and the Pistons, who we heard from The Athletic's James Edwards have had conversations with the Bulls about trading for LaVine. They are not sure if they want to do that yet, with LaVine's obvious injury history and contract and playing style issues, this and the third, but they're desperate. And so if I'm the Bulls damn near need to be desperate too in getting this deal done, because I'm not sure how much more you're going to get out of a LaVine trade. He's not increasing his value. Value doesn't typically go up as players get older, especially once they hit their prime. He's in his prime. We know what he is. We know that he's not going to be the defender that you want him to be on a consistent basis. He's not going to make the best decisions with the ball in his hands, but he's an efficient offensive scorer when he's healthy. But that's the other problem. He's not always healthy, and he's still owed a lot of money. So it's going to be complicated, and the Bulls have maintained a high asking price. They've dug their heels in the ground on continuity. It has not paid off. So I'm just wondering, at what point do you cut your losses and say we need to do this? Now, Johnson said that they're not in the business of doing that. I am a person who will tell you that that's bad business, and that's how front offices get fired, because now they don't have to make a decision, but you let that fester and attitudes get to lingering and things get to leaking out and people's opinions of what's happening there gets to changing. For an example, wrote about this for Soaring Down South. DeJounte Murray apparently had an alleged interaction with the fan on X, and in the interaction, Murray just told all. Basically bored out how during practice he's being used one way, and then the game comes and it's a whole nother way. He seemed to lament being used as a spot-up shooter the majority of the time that he's on the floor, which would be with Trae Young. In the article, actually wrote about how their numbers this season are kind of disappointing when you look at it in that context. He talked about, he's previously talked about how Quinn Snyder likes to get up a lot of threes. He didn't necessarily say it with an air of joy, but that's just speculation at that point. I don't want to attach that to this. This, though, is disturbing just because of the fact that it's I guess it kind of confirms some of the thoughts that you would have when you watch the team look listless. They gave up 73 points to Luka Doncic, and after the game, Trae Young said, well, after he gave up like 60 points, we tried to double him a little bit more. Like, wait, what? 60 points is when you decided to double? At that point, it was too late. But you could watch the game and see that there was no defense, and then when he got to about 60, 65 points, it was tougher. He had to struggle to get that last 8 points. Those kind of things are what happens when you have trade rumors get out, and then they fester. And that's what's happening with. Now it's happening faster with the Hawks than it's happened with the Bulls. Levine's been mired in trade rumors for years now. I guess you could say, really for the last year though. It's in fast forward with the Hawks, but they've gone through this multiple times. They've gone through it with John Collins. They've had other trade rumors. They paid guys and had to trade them. It's turmoil for a team that's disjointed on the floor. There's nothing going right. Usually the saving grace for teams that are going through things on the floor is that, well, the locker room is still together. It doesn't sound like they're all the way together. Now, Murray says his teammates love him. He has not publicly asked for a trade, and he's been playing well. So those three positives have overshadowed, at least, in my mind, some of the noise that's coming out, but the noise is growing louder. And that, I guess, if you're in the front office for the Hawks, would be the concern. And so, again, like I'm not expecting them to do anything just to do it, but they too are on watch of, hey man, if you don't do this now, you could be in a world of hurt because you're not moving fast enough, or you let the situation, like I said, fester way too long. So that's just another one to keep an eye on. Like I said, it's gonna be a quick episode, so that's gonna do it for this one. We'll try to come back. I tried to come back early this week, just wasn't able to find the time to do so, but I will try to come back again. Just try. Keyword, try to come back and deliver an early episode, get to some of the Broncos, Vikings news and other things that we cover, that I have been covering over the past week or so. Like I said, that's going to do it for this episode, 000. Be sure to follow me on X at Josh G. Buck. Hit the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com. Email address is contact at clockersports.com. Follow the show on X and on Facebook at 30pod. That is the number 30pod. Follow the site, clockersports.com, Clocker Sports on TikTok, and Clocker Sports on YouTube. And also read the stuff, man. Last word on sports. Heavy on Bulls, heavy on Lakers, heavy on Broncos, heavy on Vikings, soaring down south. And of course, you can read everything at clockersports.com. And until the very next time, you already know what it is. We gone.